For nearly 100 centuries, human life moved to the steady rhythm of dawn and dusk, winter and harvest. We lived inside a narrow envelope of biological limitation. Muscle and circumstance set the boundary. Power came from animal backs, from water wheels, or the uncertain gift of the wind. Tools could magnify an arm, but they could not truly liberate us. A trader walking the roads of 1700 moved through a world imperial Rome would have recognized. Every object carried the signature of time, the time to grow it, mine it, carve it, stitch it. Commerce was human-sized. Production unfolded slowly, because it had to. And then, almost abruptly, the old equilibrium broke. In the coal-laced landscapes of Great Britain, humanity learned to seize deep energy from the earth. It wasn't simply an upgrade, it was a rupture, so sharp the previous chapter felt like another world. To understand it, we ask, why Britain, why there, and why then? First pillar, a quiet revolution in the countryside. New tools and methods made fields unusually efficient. The same acreage produced more food with fewer hands. Surplus created displacement. Workers drifted toward towns and cities. Second pillar, political stability and legal structure. Enough rule of law to give investors confidence. Partnerships formed, credit flowed, risk could be shared. Third pillar, geography. An island threaded with rivers and ringed by accessible ports. Water transport was the cheapest highway, moving heavy things with less friction. Fourth pillar, empirical thinking. Workshops became laboratories. Fifth pillar, high wages and cheap coal pressure that made mechanization irresistible. The earliest flame caught in textiles, cotton, the white gold of the age. British consumers wanted it, merchants wanted it. And Britain faced an uncomfortable truth. India produced breathtaking cloth with extraordinary skill. Restrictions and bans couldn't erase desire, they intensified it. If Britain wanted dominance, it would have to automate. In 1733, John Kay's flying shuttle let one weaver produce cloth faster than ever. But weaving accelerated, while spinning lagged. Looms began to outrun the supply of yarn. Hargreaves' spinning jenny multiplied output, compact enough for cottages, powerful enough to threaten craft. Innovation arrived with social shock skills and livelihoods, suddenly felt fragile. Arkwright's water frame demanded steady flowing power, pulling work from homes into centralized mills. If power came from a river, labor had to gather where the river flowed. Crompton's spinning mule combined strengths, producing yarn both strong and fine. Step by step, human hands stopped driving productivity and began attending the machine. By the 19th century, cotton imports rose to volumes that read like myth. Mills drew raw material from across the world, binding continents into a single ruthless network. But another transformation brewed in darkness. Coal mines went deeper, and water became the enemy. Hand pumps couldn't keep pace. The mines needed tireless power, stronger than horses. Newcomen's atmospheric engine worked inefficient and hungry, but functional where coal was cheap. Waste didn't matter. What mattered was descent. More coal, more industry, a deepening cycle. Then James Watt saw what the engine squandered and solved it with a separate condenser. The improvement wasn't incremental. It made steam power practical. Partnered with Matthew Boulton, steam ceased to be a specialized tool. It became universal motion. For the first time, production wasn't tied to waterfalls or windy hills. Steam drove hammers, bellows, pumps, machinery across every kind of work. If coal could be delivered, power could be summoned. Factories could rise almost anywhere. Iron had long depended on charcoal, and charcoal on forests. Timber set the ceiling. Coke burned hotter and cleaner, unlocking larger furnaces and greater output. Iron had long depended on charcoal, and charcoal on forests. Timber set the ceiling. Coke burned hotter and cleaner, unlocking larger furnaces and greater output. Pioneers like the Darby family helped shift iron-making onto a new foundation. New processing improved quality and lowered cost. Iron became structural, abundant, foundational. The Iron Bridge announced the era in metal. The future would be engineered. As machinery multiplied, the Industrial Revolution became an urban revolution. In 1800, most people were rural by century's end. Britain had inverted that reality. People poured into cities for wages, survival, opportunity. The industrial city was born explosively. Manchester became the archetype: thread and smoke, chimneys and vibration. But the cost was immense. Migration overwhelmed infrastructure. Housing rose fast, cheap and damp. Sewage lagged behind growth. Water supplies contaminated. Disease thrived. Cholera, typhoid, tuberculosis, mortality soared. The city became a laboratory of suffering. Inside the factory, time itself transformed. Old time was organic, daylight and season. New time became mechanical, hours and minutes. Schedules enforced the rhythm. The machine did not care if you were tired. Shifts stretched to 14 hours or more, wages often low. Those paid least, women and children, filled the labor force. Children crawled beneath moving mechanisms, risking crushed limbs for pennies. Brutality didn't stay invisible. Reformers documented. Outrage grew. Gradually, regulations emerged, small steps toward safety and limits on hours. Slowly, children began migrating from looms to classrooms. A new middle class formed: clerks, managers, engineers, the interface between invention and production. Goods once reserved for elites became more widely available, unevenly, but noticeably. Transportation had to keep pace. Muddy roads and slow carts could not serve an industrial nation. Britain entered canal mania, carving waterways to move coal, iron, and goods. For a time, canals seemed like the ultimate solution, arteries of industry. But canals were eclipsed by the dramatic symbol of the age, the railway. The Liverpool and Manchester Railway was more than transport, it was psychological. Speed felt new. Goods moved faster, news traveled quicker, time itself felt compressed. Once railways spread, the revolution became contagious. Belgium industrialized early, helped by coal and proximity to British trade. France moved more gradually, shaped by different politics and regional patterns. Germany surged, drawing power from coal regions and pushing into heavy industry and chemistry. In the United States, land and resources fed a distinct model: standardization, interchangeable parts, mass production. Japan's Meiji Restoration remade society, an accelerated leap into industrial power within a generation. Yet no revolution moves forward unchallenged. Craftsmen watched livelihoods evaporate. The Luddite movement rose, not as mindless rage, but as desperate defense of a way of life. Frames were smashed, factories attacked, the state responded with force. Industrial property was protected, as if national survival depended on it, because, in a sense, it did. From conflict grew organized labor, the trade union as counterweight to capitalism. Workers learned one voice could be ignored, but many voices could halt production. Strikes and negotiations became features of the industrial world, shaping politics and law. To Karl Marx, the factories revealed exploitation built into capitalism, a class struggle sharpening over time. To the Romantics, factories signaled a spiritual catastrophe. Nature diminished, experience standardized. Beneath it all, the environment began to suffer. Rivers became conduits for waste. Air thickened with soot, landscapes scarred by extraction. Observers linked pollution with illness. Early roots of environmental consciousness took shape. Governments slowly recognized unchecked growth carried consequences that couldn't be contained. This revolution wasn't one story. It was a web: abundance and slums, wealth and misery. It made some lives longer and others shorter. It built systems that never sleep, rewiring societies around production and growth. And today, whether we realize it or not, we are heirs of that 18th century spark. The struggle over labor and dignity, these are living inheritances, not museum pieces. The environmental strain, the relentless pressure of speed, shadows cast long. Revolutions rarely announce themselves loudly. They arrive quietly, inside workshops. Inside overlooked experiments, small improvements that seem harmless in isolation. But by the time society recognizes the change, the revolution is already everywhere. It becomes the water we drink, the air we breathe, the rhythm of our lives. What began as a localized solution, expensive labor, cheap coal, reshaped global civilization. It altered economies, redrew maps, transformed families, changed even the chemistry of the atmosphere. It reorganized daily life, work, home, and childhood itself. It thrust humanity into a world that demands acceleration. It taught us to expect immediacy, availability, more, faster, now. And still, we walk through its shadows. The tensions we wrestle with today, labor, dignity, environment, echo from that turning. Because the Industrial Revolution wasn't just machines, it was people, pressed, displaced, reorganized. History pivots on details, tiny changes that compound. And the atmosphere, once untouched, became a ledger of human industry. To look forward with clarity, we have to look backward with honesty. I'm Tim, and together we look backward so we can see forward. Because history reborn can guide us into what comes next. From thread to steam, from iron to rail, the world remade itself fast. Revolutions arrive quietly, but they change everything. I will see you there.